You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, June 5th show. You can also listen to our show on podcast, our Facebook premiere show, or you can listen to our show on our YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market. We're here to help you in today's economy. And now in studio, we have Dawn Spiegelberg of Heart Coherence, LLC, how stress negatively impacts your wealth strategy, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And a little bit about Dawn. She is a certified coherence coach and ad heart facilitator. In her work over the last 20 years, she found evidence of the positive effects of energy fields within and around the body. Adhering her to her study, coherence and foster intuitive skills. Heart coherence has surprising benefits like improves cognitive function, increases persona resilience, and promotes teamwork. The innovative practices of heart coherence propelled her business, which was named Best of Bothell 2018.
How cool. Well, let's start with this. I mean, I have a 1-month-old baby, a dog that's 1, and a 5-year-old, and running a house and a successful business. Stress can happen. So, and why do you feel like people get so stressed?
Keelan, you named it. It's the environment that triggers a natural physiological response in our bodies. And so as our environment changes, so does our level of stress. And you named almost every single stressor.
In the same household, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, all in the same household.
I wouldn't change it though. I'm a happy guy.
Good for you.
You are definitely a happy guy and have a happy family, just lots of chaos going on for sure. So Dawn, prior to COVID, what was the number one stressor?
So what's really fascinating is that before the coronavirus hit, everyone's boss was considered the number one stressor in their life. And when you imagine that, that's pretty significant because your boss is the one who employs you. Your boss provides that job security that people rely on. They're also managing how much you make and whether or not you get a raise. So you can imagine that interactions and the position that a boss has over an individual would cause a lot of stress. And that's why the boss is number one.
Well, I sure hope for my teammates as their so-called boss, I like to call myself the leader of the team. I didn't cause any stress, but also just stress of the unknown of how that leader is going to lead the organization to ensure everything's going to be okay on the other side of COVID. Crazy.
Exactly.
Tina, you are the coolest boss that anybody can ever have. If you only knew Tina, she's awesome. So, and I'm around the team all the time, and she's a rock star. So, don't believe that for a second. You are amazing. Now let's talk about stress as a natural response, because I know inherently in us there's fight or flight. Why is stress so unhealthy?
So fight or flight is a mechanism to keep us safe, to keep us protected. And the truth is, if there is a threat in our environment, then our body is designed to use up all the available energy in order to keep us safe. So stress in and of itself isn't unhealthy. It's actually based in survival. What's unhealthy is the prolonged stress, the stress that doesn't get dealt with. Consistent, persistent stress is what's most unhealthy.
I just last night was having a conversation with a close girlfriend and business partner of mine, and talking about how she avoids a stressful situation that's coming into her life currently. And I said, you don't want to do that. You need to tackle it straight on, and then find techniques and things that you can allow that stress to release so you can move away from it. So, Dawn, let's talk about what causes people to feel so stressed.
So, the reason that we feel stressed is directly based on our perceptions and our experiences, our past experiences. So, I have an example. Young children, they don't know not to pull a dog's ears. That makes sense. They pull a dog's ears and they get bit. And that's the experience that's developed. And what's amazing is a child can have a different response based on the child's personality. So one child may be afraid of all dogs after being nipped because they pulled their ear. One child may be just afraid of that breed of dog, and yet another child may be afraid of just that dog, and it didn't matter what the breed is. So our responses to the experiences we have are all different. What this actually means is that there's always a one-to-one relationship to the cause of our stress. And when it comes to making wealth decisions, we don't always see what the causes are that are contributing to our stress. So if you, for example, make the choice and wait to sell a stock or some other investment, and something causes it to dive, it probably wasn't your choice to sell it at that time, right? But other factors. However, our brains are designed to look at the pattern, and it searches for the reason of our stress, for our stress. So what may happen is it gets stuck on believing that actually it was your choice in that moment to sell, and then in the future you may be hesitant to sell again. So stress actually changes the way we think and how we think, and it especially affects our wealth strategies.
I feel Tina especially is really good at this, and she's helped me over the years, and I've worked on it forever. I just feel like we focus on ourselves, and there's nothing that really stresses me out because I realize it's how I'm perceiving the situation, and how I react to it makes all the difference in the world. So when right before the show, you dogs barking, babies going nuts, families leaving, I'm focusing on the show. I'm not just going to dive into that and let it affect me. But if I did, I'd be curious on what that initial effect of that stress would be, let's say on work.
So that's a great question. And having experienced stress, you know that fatigue comes into play. And when we are under stress for long periods of time, it draws our energy, it depletes our energy stores. And so, because we're fatigued, it decreases our performance. It also affects your attitude. So you did a great job of coming on the show. We had no idea that you had so many things going on behind the scenes. But when you were here, you're focused, right? Other people may not be able to do that, and they may bring a more negative vibration to the workplace. And so that also affects performance. And then lastly, prolonged stress contributes to burnout. And we all have heard about burnout. And burnout happens because we're not renewing our energy stores. All the available energy during stress is used up because of our perception and understanding of stress. So, Keelan, you did a great job of getting to the show and not looking stressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So awesome. Now we can get a visual of what's happening behind the scenes as Keelan's right here with this big smile on his face and rocking at the co-host position. So, Dawn, stress in a temporary space can be a good thing, can it not?
Yes. Many people actually learn to leverage stress to their advantage. So, for example, a speaker before going on stage may be a little nervous, and they can use that stress to propel them and to leverage and to energize themselves so that they meet the crowd with connection and excitement. Intimacy with our spouses is a stress and then a release of stress. So when we practice using stress and the benefits of stress, it actually can move us forward in life. It's really amazing.
Yeah, as a keynote speaker, sometimes talking in front of hundreds of people, sharing the most vulnerable times of my life, I get that. And I change it. This is excitement and energy, which is going to help me rock the stage at a higher level. Just what you shared, Dawn.
Beautiful.
Don, what's a tip for those that are listening to us today on ways they can stop just stressing so much?
So know what triggers your stress. That's first and foremost, because sometimes people don't know what it is. Second, limit your exposure to that. So unfortunately, Keelan, in your situation, you're not going to be able to limit your exposure to dogs and new babies and that. But it is important to actively decrease and dissipate the stress that you experience. So take breaks for yourself, take time to yourself, and then avoid making decisions while you're under stress and duress, because the fatigue factor, it decreases your cognitive function. You won't be making the best choice if you're under stress.
Yeah. So, Dawn, work can cause you stress, and you don't necessarily want to quit your job, start a new one, get new stress, and go through that cycle. So what tips do you have for someone that's listening that their work causes them stress?
Tina, you gave a great example with regard to getting up in front of people and speaking, and you mentioned shifting that energy and creating excitement. When we change the meaning of the stress that we experience, that's when we can actually leverage it for the better. So stress is attributed to lots of negative things. A lot of times when it's prolonged stress, we struggle with it. But when we change its meaning, then we can really use it to our advantage.
And it's really the balance of the universe. Anything supposedly bad is good on the other side. It's just utilizing it, being able to shift, as you said, to the other side of it. Love that.
True.
And for me personally, I just take it on. So I was also stressed by a boss at one point. So I decided to get rid of a boss and work for myself. You know, it takes,
I love that.
it takes courage, but you got to do what you can do. If my baby's crying, I'll go pick him up, you know, and try to dissipate the situation. But I find just sitting in that, marinating it is just worse. You just got to get there and tackle it or remove it from your life altogether and change your environment. I can imagine if it affects your work, it's got to affect your wealth. So how can stress negatively affect your wealth?
So here's the thing. When you're under stress, you feel that you're threatened by something. And in the midst of being threatened, our mind works to identify the threat to remove it, which means it's decreasing your overall cognitive function. When you're focused on finding what that threat is, because you plan on fighting it, or you're running away from it, or you're trying to hide from it, that just doesn't help us financially. It doesn't help us run away from a situation. We need to address it head on. So you can miss out on an opportunity to build your wealth. You can lose money if you're stressed and making decisions, or you may not be aware of or perceive a great opportunity that would make your wealth increase. So stay out of stress.
Stay out of stress. And that's a good last final words in wrapping up our time with you, Dawn. Thank you so much for coming into studio and sharing how to use your stress as a benefit so that you can really conquer your life. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.